So let's talk See the Cat. So this is, I'm a grown man, and I was laughing out loud at this poor dog's misadventures being misidentified by, I assume, you, David. I assume you've done this to Max, the poor dog, that have identified him as a cat, since you are the author. So how I know the question, where do you get your ideas come from, is absurd, because who knows? But at the same time, this is a concept it floored me when I read it. Like, why haven't I read this before? This seems like a concept that should already exist. And yet I can't remember ever encountering this misidentified character. That's his whole problem for a good part of the story seems to be that the author is messing with him. So how did you come up with that? And then how long did it take you to realize that?
Boy, some books I know instantly where I got the idea from, and some are a lot vaguer. And this is one of those vaguer ones, Rob. I know that I had wanted to write a book at one point in which the book itself was the character. And I had tried that with books before, where the book is saying, oh, thank you for taking me off the shelf. It feels good to have my pages turned. So I had that idea in the back of my mind. And I always like that idea of having a book where the text does not match up with the words. And I know there must be other books that do that as well, too. Where the words are saying one thing, but the illustration is something different. So those two things. And I combine those in this idea where it's like a beginning reader, see the cat, except it's not a cat on the page, it's something else. And what I did was I brought in, I made a little dummy of the book. And this is what I brought into my writing group. It's just some simple pages with my sketches. See the cat? The dog says, I am not a cat. I am a dog. And Rob can see this, but if I were to show, my illustration here, I can then show Mike's illustration, and you can see why I like having Mike for my illustrator instead of me. Yeah, so I put together this little dummy of the book and brought it into my writing group. And I believe Mike said afterwards, David, I'd really like to illustrate that book. And I said, boy, thank goodness. That's what I was hoping you would tell me, Mike. That's kind of how it went, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I was very excited that you thought the same thing, David. So
it's kind of love at first sight.
Definitely.
And we sent it off to an editor at Candlewick. I had published one book with her that somebody else was the illustrator, Isle of You, illustrated by Jamie Kim, and she's a great illustrator. But we sent my little dummy of the book along with a sheet of sketches of Max that Mike had done and all the different expressions of him. And we sent them to the editor saying we would like to do this book together. Right away from the start, we knew we wanted to do it as a team. And our wonderful editor at Candlewick, Andrea Tompa, said, we're on board. This looks great. Do you want separate contracts or do you want to share the same contract? I remember that's what she asked us.
What is the right answer to that question, should it ever come up for anyone listening?
Well, for us, we said we wanted separate contracts, and that's the way it's always been. And so any sort of negotiations we do independently of each other. I don't know how other teams would do. Do you have any idea, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely, David and I, we don't have agents, but we both have lawyers or attorneys that look at our contracts. So they both advised us to have the contracts be separate. So.
I mean, I'm trying to think why it would be an advantage to have one contract for two people. I would think that might diminish. I don't know. I don't know if it would be a problem at all. It could be I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, Mike, so you're in love with the book. You go home and you start doing sketches, or you do them right there with David kind of looking over your shoulder. But that's not what I want. Do it this way. Nope, none of that.
Yeah, so my job after Candlewick agreed to publish this as a team is really just starting to sketch that character, Max, and I've got lots of sketches here. I've got pages and pages of Max. And I was quoted saying that I drew Max hundreds of times just to capture that specific emotion on each page. And I felt like, well, was that an exaggeration? So I went through my sketches and I counted the number of times I drew Max. And I think I found some more sheets, David, last time I told you. So I think I came up to about 267. So I do a lot of sketches, and it seems a little silly, but I just sketch and sketch and sketch until it looks like I didn't have to work at all to come up with that pose or that emotion. So yeah, so that's my job after accepting the project, is just coming up with the sketches, and then the next step is doing the final art, the final paintings. So, and I'll do lots of color studies for those, and this is just an example of some of the color studies. And
the color study, that's to give David and the editor and everybody involved an opportunity to say, no, the color you've chosen, this one instead, or?
Yeah, just so we're all on the same page. I always do color studies. I work with the designer, Lauren Pettipiece at Candlewick, who is wonderful to work with. And so just to make sure, like I said, we're on the same page, and she'll share those paintings with everyone else at Candlewick. And once I get the go ahead, then I have a few months to do all the paintings, and I'm kind of on my own at that stage, just working in my studio, doing the final art.
And is there any level of intimidation, just because if we were, say, writing a book called, I don't know, maybe See the Cockroach, there's a lot of open territory with cockroaches that hasn't been explored. But when we're doing dogs and cats, there's a lot of illustrated dogs, a lot of illustrated cats out there, and yet Max is his own new separate thing. He's obviously a dog, but he's very much a character in and of himself. So how do you ever worry about? I don't know if do you go out and you look at all the other dogs that are available and say, this is going to be the type of dog I draw, or do you just say, well, by virtue of the fact that I'm drawing it and the inspiration is passing through me, it will be a Mike original?
Yeah, I think the latter. I think, those, I don't know if I have any really early sketches, but, I really played around with different types of dogs, smaller ears, smaller noses, big noses, long ears. And that's one thing with David's, that little book dummy. One thing I really loved about his sketches, that the Max did have these very expressive ears, the longer ears. And it's a matter of just sketching it over and over until it feels right. It feels like the dog for this book. I guess that's kind of the process of just sketching and sketching and sketching until it starts feeling right.
And of course, you guys have got a sequel coming. See the cat. I'm sorry, see the dog. 3 stories about a cat. So when in the process does it occur to you that you can expand the universe, or is it simply when the book comes out and everyone says, "Oh my God, this is amazing," and you guys start winning all the awards? Like, all right, it's sequel time right now. When in the process do you find out there's going to be another book, David?
Well, we had finished See the Cat, and I don't think it had come out yet. No, it hadn't come out yet. But Mike had finished the artwork, and Mike told me, David, I think Candlewick is going to ask for a sequel to the book. And Mike knows that I do not like sequels. I'm not fond of them because so often, at least I feel, the sequels are just often telling the same story again. So I'm not a real big fan of sequels. But Mike said, I think Candlewick is going to ask for a sequel. And I said, oh, no, I don't want to do a sequel. So the next week, Candlewick said, oh, would you be interested in doing a sequel? It was before the book was even published. And then Mike's told me, David, I even have the title for the sequel. The title should be See the Dog, 3 Stories About a Cat. And the instant that Mike told me that title, In my mind, I got a completely new approach that would work for the second book, where it wouldn't just be the same story again. So Mike can take all the credit for not only coming up with the title, but that title is what triggered the storyline for the next one. Because I thought, oh, Baby Cakes, the cat, the way Mike drew her in that first book, I could just picture her personality. If she's going to be the star of this next book is going to be a very different type of book. So thank goodness for Mike for nudging me to do the sequel. And we both are very grateful that we were done with the sequel and had sold actually the third book in the series before See the Cat won any awards, because that would be just too much pressure on the world to try and come up with something once a book had done well. So both Mike and I were happy about that.
So that's the book I'm currently working on, Rob, is the third in the series. And I don't know if you know the title of that, Rob, but it's See the Ghost, 3 stories about things you cannot see.
So that should be just right up your alley, Rob, with Ghost in the title.
Yeah, you've got until that book's done to go find some ghosts for the necessary inspiration.
Yeah, just research.
I will send you some links of haunted places nearby to go see.
Sounds good.
Actually, there's a couple where you can watch webcams live, and they'll put it in the haunted house, and you can just have that going while you're drawing, and look up every so often to see if a ghost has come by. You'll be in good shape. So See the Ghost. That is, and obviously we can't say too much about a book that's not that the student audience won't have the opportunity to read for a little while. But that is I want to say left turn, but in honor of the flying saucer, I think we'll say right turn. Fair enough. Right angle turn. Cat dog. That makes sense. Where do we get to Ghost, or is that a surprise? And was the Ghost secretly making a cameo in the previous 2 books and we didn't know?
Well, the Ghost doesn't appear in the first 2 books, but both the dog and the cat, Max and Baby Cakes, appear in the third book. So those 2 characters are uniform through all 3 books. And I guess Mike gave me the title for the second book, but for the third book, it was trying to think of some sort of wordplay, because the first 2 you have that See the Cat, it's a story about a dog. Well, that doesn't make sense. See the Dog, it's a story about a cat. That doesn't make sense. So trying to think of that same pattern, see the something, what would not make sense? See the ghost, 3 things you cannot see. Well, that wouldn't make sense about things you. So I guess that's where it came from. And then tried to think of 3 things that you cannot see that you can write a story about.
That's what I'm saying. If you can't see the ghost, how do we know it wasn't there the whole time?
Well, Mike was very happy with this third book because there's so many things he just doesn't have to draw because you can't see them.
After 2 books, third book, you can sit back and just get paid, right? Woo! Yeah. So where does it go from here? That can't be the end. This thing's just picking up steam. You're winning awards now. People are going to continue to fall in love. You're going to be on this podcast, and that's going to, I assume, skyrocket the sales even further. And so we've got a plan for at least 5, 6 more books. Do you foresee this going on, or is 3 going to be that's enough for now?
We want to stop at 10. I think that's the number we've decided on, Rob. Yeah. Right, David?
As I keep telling Mike, 3 is such a nice number. It's got that 3 is a magic number. So I'm looking at 3. Mike's looking at 10.
I have to keep that contract streak going, David.
This is a cash cow. You're gonna be 20, 30 books. You're gonna.
No, that was our first. Our first book was the cash cow. Rob Moo, that one.
Oh, is that right?
That was our cash cow.
Oh, right. Because I'm so slow to pick up that joke. I'm embarrassed for myself. Oh, let's move on. Well, could we see additional books set in the Moo universe? Do you think?
Oh, I don't know, Mike. You never pushed me for another Moo book, have you?
You were pretty adamant about that one, David. Yeah.
And I still am now. That Cow has her one book, and that's that. She would want to have a whole series about her. That's her personality. See the Cow, 3 stories about a cow is what she would want to have. But no, I think Cow in her book Moo is going to be a standalone book.
Even when Moo 2 as a title is just right there.
or more Moo, or what you could do.
That's pretty good too. I don't know. I think See the Cow is pretty good. I like this this crossover.
Yeah. There you go, David.
I think Mike's right. I think you're going to reach 10 books.
Well, we look forward to coming back again in the near future to talk about books 5, 6, and 7.